All right, it's your boys Evan and Ian with Litany by Carol Ann Duffy. It's about to get lit. Let's get it.
All right. So first off, the speaker. The speaker in this poem is believed to be Carol Ann Duffy, but throughout this whole poem, we do not see any allusions to a woman or man, so we can't be sure. But it is basically an adult remembering her childhood.
All right, another one hit you up with the occasion now. It's the reflection of bad memories from the speaker, remembering bad stuff about their childhood.
All right. So next we have the audience. And the audience would be anyone listening to either Duffy or the speaker remembering her awful childhood or her bad memories.
All right, hit you up with another one now. The purpose.
Another one.
Yeah. The speaker is reflecting on the rigid ideas that he or she grew up with in the 1960s, most likely the time when Carol Ann Duffy was a child.
Exactly. So this really does give a little way to this being about Carol Ann Duffy's life, but we can't be sure. All right, another one.
All right. So next up we got
Subject.
That's right. We got the subject.
All right.
Subject again, reflection on bad childhood memories, bad childhood experience throughout the childhood of the speaker.
Okay, all right. And so next we have a tone. So the tone of this was really nostalgic. It was really remembering, Carol Ann Duffy's childhood or the speaker's childhood. But it's not only nostalgic in that it's mocking. It's really mocking how the way she grew up, the ideals that her parents set upon her, and how she was basically raised, or the speaker.
All right, I feel it.
All
Good
right,
analysis, boy.
Thank you.
We on to the structure next. The structure is very formal, very rigid, reflecting on the rigid structure of her childhood and the society she grew up in. He or she, the speaker, grew up in, and reflects the social setting that the speaker grew up in.
Good. All right. So next we got the theme, and we just really focused on the bitterness of this whole poem. We really thought that Duffy was trying to convey how this time was just a really horrible time to grow up in, especially for someone who is gay, who has come out gay, those ideas and morals would never be accepted during this time. And so she's kind of, mocking her parents and very bitter of how they, raised her.
All right. Last but not least, we got
The title.
Another one. The title is Litany. Litany is a religious prayer where the members of the audience that are at the service are responding to what the speaker is saying. So it's very reflecting on how her childhood is ingrained in her memory, how very
All right, round that ish back. Let's get it.
All right, so another one. We got the title Litany. A litany is a religious prayer where the audience is responding to the prayer leader back and forth. So the title is reflecting the rigid ideas that are deeply embedded in your memory, like a religious litany would become ingrained in your memory because it's so easy to remember.
Another one. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we go and get you, right, with all these figurative language.
Some imagery.
We're going to be right back. All right, we back. We about to get you with this figurative language and the meaning of this poem. Let's get it. All right.
Let's get it.
So
starting off, line 1, right here, soundtrack, then, my bad. Soundtrack, then was a litany. That's a simile, if you didn't know, all right? They don't want you to know that's a simile, all right? They don't want you to know. But that's a simile.
You want to explain that a little bit?
Nah, I'm good.
All right. So we have this use of Pyrex right here, and this is not only a dramatic stop, but it's also to emphasize how her mom, or the speaker's mom, was really obsessed with nice things, because Pyrex is really nice cookware this time.
Yeah, money team, we out here, boys.
So if you had this type of cookware, you're kind of hot shot, the cool mom, so that was kind of interesting.
All right. Boy Ian skipped over line 2 where we got this, we got some. Oh, whoops, no. My bads. Right here, line 3, stiff-haired wives balance their red smiles, passing the catalog. You know, it's imagery showing the setting the speaker was usually in their house. Mom would have, you know, the neighborhood wives over. They're there all dolled up, looking nice, passing the catalogs, because, you know, they got to buy wealthy things to use their wealth.
Yeah, but they're, you know, gossiping, you know,
Yeah.
they're spreading rumors, you know. It's not really something that, you know, Duffy looked up to. It was more of a, you know, an embarrassment to her. She didn't believe that that was something her mom should be doing, or the speaker's mom, all right? So, and you see this, language embarrassed them, you know? So, that's kind of interesting.
All right. Before we move on to the second stanza, some more imagery. A tiny ladder ran up Mrs. Barr's American tan leg. That's more imagery again, showing that the ladies, well, Mrs. Barr specifically, was wearing some stockings. A tiny ladder that would go up her stockings. Yeah.
All right. So, second stanza, right off the bat, we got crackled and cellophane. Got these two sounds, the sound, both of them, you know? So, this really alludes to the artificialness of, you know, the mothers who are, you know, meeting, you know, they don't really care about, you know, being nice to each other. They're just kind of just, you know, la 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 la, gossiping, you know. So that crinkling, that cellophane sound, the round polyester shirts, it just really, like, gives way to a fakeness, you know?
I feel you.
All right.
And right before, at the beginning of this line, the terrible marriages crackled. That's an allusion to probably the speaker's parents, how they have a bad marriage, they're unhappy, but they're persistent and they're staying married even though they're not happy. Because during the time period of this poem, divorce wasn't really a popular thing, didn't happen often.
It was really a taboo,
Yeah.
you know? And, you know, it would be kind of embarrassing for, even if your marriage was terrible, if you were divorced, you know? So people kind of, you know, stayed in that. And Duffy, you know, obviously doesn't agree with that.
Yep. Let's
All
hit
right.
him with another one. Ian, hit him.
We got another one. We got Slimly right here, as bright as stones. And I'm guessing that's kind of, again, alluding to artificialness, because they're really only looking at the bright stones in engagement rings. You know, that's the only important thing, you know? It's those nice diamonds, you know? So, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So then, something to note: an embarrassing word, broken, to bits. Moves on to the next stanza. So obviously, talking about most likely the ladies gossiping, how they might have used like an embarrassing word that really isn't accepted, or maybe they said something they shouldn't have. But again, Duffy doesn't like the situation. She doesn't like the artificialness of these ladies. So, yeah.
And we see this here when this was a code. And we thought about this for a long time, and we kind of figured out that when she's saying this, where no one had cancer, sex, or debts, she's basically saying that when she heard all these words, her mom was kind of spelling it out instead of telling it, so she wouldn't hear it. So she would be like, oh, sex, or, you know, cancer. They weren't saying it. They weren't letting her hear these words because they didn't want to. They're protecting her. They're protecting her innocence. And certainly not leukemia, because they couldn't spell it, you know? So they actually couldn't spell it out. They wouldn't even say something like that. So it really alludes to, you know, her innocence in a way. So,
Yeah. All right, so the last couple lines here of the third stanza. The year was a mass graves of wasps, bobbed in a jam jar. A butterfly stammered itself in my curious hands. And it's a pretty weird couple lines, but what I really thought it meant, they would put the jam jars out in front of the houses, so then the wasps would get stuck and die, and that became like a routine procedure. So it's contributing to the theme of how this lifestyle of the speaker's parents has become just routine. This behavior is just very routine and artificial.
all right, the last stanza. And it's pretty much straightforward. A boy in the playground told me to F off, you know. So I think she's, she came in running into her house, mom, this kid told me to do this. And, instead of, like being like, oh, I'm so sorry, like, we're going to go get his parents, we're going to protect you, she immediately, gets in trouble. I'm sorry. She's apologizing to all these moms, Her mom's totally embarrassed, and, the taste of soap, She put a bar of soap in her mouth, it's a punishment.
Even though she's breaking this code where she's not to use these profanity, these horrors.
Slang,
no slang. Even though she's trying to tell her mom that this kid said it to her,
And it
she's
wasn't
getting
her.
in trouble for using the word in the house, which is unacceptable. And it's another thing Duffy, or the speaker, does not like about this artificialness, this society that she's being raised in.
All right. So we're going to hit you back with this theme and the overall meaning of the poem.
All right, your boys are back to wrap it up with Litany. All right, we're going to hit you with the thesis real quick.
All right. So our thesis is basically the speaker reflecting on the rigid, structured ideals that shaped her life. Or his life, but we don't really know, So, you want to elaborate on that a little bit? Want to tell us why we think that?
All right, so throughout the whole poem, you got this like mocking tone of what's going on in the speaker's childhood. Obviously, speaker's not really happy. She's reflecting on these. The memories of her childhood are ingrained in her mind like a litany, and she can't really shake it. She's reflecting on them. It's rigid. It's structured. She don't like it, and that's it.
And basically, this bitter tone is why she's writing this poem. She wants to get this out. She wants to tell people, why this is wrong, why people shouldn't grow up in a, society like this. So, we think that's the reason why.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
And that's a wrap from your boys, Evan and Ian.
All right, let's get
It was lit.
It was
Hit
lit.
you with another one.
All right, give us that 5-star rating on Uber. Saying, another one.
Leave some tips while you're at it.
All right, bro. See you later.